Good morning, friends. It is October 29th, and so you know what that means. We are on Proverbs chapter 29. And if you're interested in any of the resources that I used in today's Bible study, check the description box because that's exactly where I got you. And do not forget to comment the verses that stood out to you. And I'm going to tell you the ones that stood out to me. And chapter 29 had a lot. I floated between CEV and NKJV. Baby, I was all over the Bible. So let's get into it. The one that stood out to me was verse 1, but I'm going to read it in the CEV where it says, "If you keep being stubborn after many warnings, you will discover that you have gone too far." It's not the reminder to listen to your father. Baby, he throws us warnings left and right. And I don't know about you, but I've been in situations where God gave me warning after warning after warning, sign after sign after sign, and I still didn't pay attention. And then I looked up, and 15 years later, I was like, well, dang. I ain't supposed to be here, am I? Nope. Okay, let me pack my stuff and go. It is a good reminder that after many warnings, God is going to try to correct his children. He's going to try to correct his children because he's a good daddy. He a great daddy. And he's going to try to correct y'all. He's going to try to correct me. And we got to heed his warnings because God looks out for us. And so that's just a reminder for me. Next verse that stood out to me was verse 2. And I'm going to read that in the NKJV version. It says, "When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when a wicked man rules, the people groan." The reason why that stood out to me is because I was in a leadership role for quite a while in my last job. I literally was promoted after like a year of working in that company. And I noticed when my mindset was different in a positive way, my team performed so positively. And when my mindset was worse, they didn't. So prior to COVID, it was a time when I was also on another journey, getting closer to God, right? And with my employees, you know, if they were having hard times, we would go in the back hallway, we would pray, we would talk about it. I was kind of like a supervisor and a therapist, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm there and I'm helpful and I'm trying to inspire them. I'm always congratulating them. My team performed so well. After COVID, worked from home, I got a whole new team of people. And building a relationship with people virtually is hard for me, okay? It was real hard for me. And it was cool at first, but then when you start getting people who don't care, I started to lack care for trying to be a positive and uplifting supervisor. I was more stern. I was, I wasn't the best supervisor. And I could tell the energy that I was receiving from my employees was directly related to the energy that I had. So this verse stood out to me because it is obvious. As a leader, you know, if you put yourself forth as a leader, practice servant leadership, focus on making sure your employees feel validated, feel seen, feel heard, but also make sure that you are keeping them to a standard for performance, they're going to perform so much better versus being a supervisor that all you do is point the finger, all you do is snap. You don't ever throw out any positive affirmations. So for me, that stood out to me for that reason. So many in this chapter, and I'm so sorry. So CEV, verse number 3, "If you love wisdom, your parents will be glad, but chasing after a bad woman will cost you everything." CEV, you couldn't have been more straightforward because it just is what it is. It reminds me too, not just chasing after a bad woman, chasing after a bad man, chasing after a bad friendship, chasing after a bad relationship. It's going to cost you everything. Put God above all that. So you put God above all that, you're going to have everything you need. 5 also stood out to me in the CEV. "Flattery is nothing less than setting a trap." Baby, them men be trying to flatter. Okay? They be on their game. And my head ain't nothing but a trap, boy. Get out of here. You know what I'm saying? Let me get a little bit deeper into this and less jokey and talk about kind of what verses I feel like related with each other. And I'm going to talk about the children verse first before I go into the next one. So there's 2 verses related to children that stood out to me in today's reading. And the first one is verse number 15. "The rod and rebuke give wisdom, but the child left to himself brings shame to his mother." My women's study Bible had a cliff note on this that I highlighted, and it says, "Often parents are inconsistent, not faithful in discipline, or too severe in punishment. Much prayer, patience, perseverance is needed to be a parent with the right mixture of love and discipline, but it's worth the effort." That is one thing that I can definitely say I struggle with is consistency. Consistency. It's so important. They need to know, if I do this, if I do A, then the result is going to be X. Every single time, being consistent. And it's hard because sometimes I don't have the mental capacity. I don't want to deal with it. I'm tired myself. Like, we'll just deal with it tomorrow. I'm inconsistent in that. And I'm really working on being consistent because I want my daughters to have a great example of what it looks like to not only be held accountable, but to hold someone else accountable in a godly way, in a healthy way. Like that with verse 17 that says, correct your son and he will give you rest. Yes, he will delight your soul. A good reminder that it's not just for your child that is going to get a benefit out of positive, healthy, godly correction, but it's also us because it's going to relieve us. It's going to delight our souls. We love when our children do things that are right, do things that are godly, do things that are nice and sweet and generous and all the things. We love that. And so it's just a reminder that discipline is a two-way street. It's not just about correcting your child for them to go forth. It's also for relief for yourself so that you know they're going to be fine. These verses that stood out to me are related to anger, the last few. And I do have a chart to show you that the Women's Study Bible put in here too. You know, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you all the tea. But we're going to look at verse 11 where it says, a fool vents his feelings, but a wise man holds them back. Then we're going to look at verse number 20. Do you see a man that's hasty with his words? There is more hope for a fool than for him. Proverbs, we've been talking about fools left and right. And it's saying if you are not able to control your tongue, you're quick with your words, you're quick to anger, there's more hope for a fool than it is for you. Wow. Looking at verses 22 and 23 along with that, an angry man stirs up strife, and a furious man abounds in transgression. A man's pride will bring him low, but the humble spirit will remain in honor. Thinking about humility, we're thinking about being humble to God. Would God want me to act this way? You know, would God want me to respond in this way? And luckily, the Women's Study Bible gives us some more information and verses that we can refer to in our times when we just need a little bit more guidance. We're praying, we're talking to God, but let's talk about the verses that you can go to if you're in a situation where you are just so furious and the first thing that comes out of your mouth is about to be a cuss word. Stop for a second, hold back, meditate on God's word. Or if this is something that you notice that keeps happening, it's like I always get frustrated when God told me to forgive and I can't forgive or I don't want to forget. Let me give you this. So I'm going to show you real quick, but I also will include like a snapshot at the end of this video just so that, you know, my hands are a little shaky so you can actually read it. But just some examples. Be slow to speak if angry. And it gives you a verse. James chapter 1 verses 19 and 20. Next one. Give your anger to God. 1 Peter chapter 5 through 7. Trust God to bring good from your trials. Romans 8:28. I'll put this at the end of it, but I think this is really helpful. So be prepared to screenshot at the end of this video. This is the last verse that the men of Hezekiah, the last chapter, that the men of Hezekiah were noted for writing. And they are throwing it all in here. They're letting us know about our anger and our frustration and how it impacts our walk with God. It's letting us know about how raising our children impacts their walk with God and ours too. These are some really good reminders. So for me, a lot of this stood out from a leadership perspective, from a mentality perspective, from a controlling my anger and walking in righteousness, and from being a parent. I think chapter 29 was jam-packed with some really good gems. But don't forget, let me know in the comments what verses stood out to you, and I will see you tomorrow for chapter 30 of the Proverbs Challenge. Bye.